When a thief reminisces about the good old days, he isn't missing the neighborhood. He is missing the unlocked doors. Hello, beautiful people from Africa and across the ocean. Welcome back to the space where we do not whisper the truth. We speak it clearly so that the spirit can hear it. Let us sit with this for a moment. Words have power. Words cast spells. And slogans are nothing more than condensed psychological programming. Make America great again. For words. But if you listen closely, with the ears of your ancestors and the mind of a historian, you will hear a scream. You will hear a lamentation. We have to stop looking at this slogan as merely political marketing. That is too shallow. We must look at it anthropologically. We must look at it through the lens of Dr. Amos Wilson, who taught us about the psychology of power. When a group of people who have held absolute dominance over the planet for the last 400 years suddenly feels the need to shout that they want to be great again, they are making a confession. They are confessing that they feel something slipping away. They are confessing that their self-esteem is tied to their dominance over you. They are confessing that equality feels like oppression to them. To say again is to invoke a return. It is a demand to rewind the clock. But my question, the question that every black person, every indigenous person, and every colonized person on this earth must ask is simple. Rewind the clock to when? Because time works differently for the hunter than it does for the prey. Let us walk through this timeline. Let us perform an autopsy on American history to find this greatness they speak of. Are they talking about 1776? The year freedom was declared on paper, while black bodies were legally classified as property. When the Founding Fathers wrote about liberty by the light of candles made by enslaved Africans. That was a great time for the plantation owner. It was a holocaust for the African. Are they talking about the 1850s, when the economy was booming, when cotton was king? We know that the economic greatness of the West was built on the stolen labor of our ancestors. As Dr. Eric Williams detailed in Capitalism and Slavery, the industrial engine of the Western world was fueled by black blood. That was a great time for the ledger books in New York and London. It was hell on earth for the people in the fields. Maybe they mean the 1950s. This is usually the era they romanticize. The white picket fence, the stable manufacturing job, the nuclear family. But in the 1950s, black veterans who fought Nazis in Europe returned home to be lynched in uniform. In the 1950s, redlining prevented our grandfathers from building the generational wealth that white families enjoy today. In the 1950s, Emmett Till was brutalized for existing. So, you see, there is no again for us, for black people, for the indigenous, for the global south. There was never a golden age in this system. There were only eras of survival. There were only different textures of oppression. Sometimes the chain was iron. Sometimes the chain was debt. Sometimes the chain was a law. But the chain was always there. So when they say, "Make America great again," they are not talking about objective greatness. They are not talking about a time when the world was fair. They are talking about a time when their comfort was purchased by our silence. Now, we must go deeper. We must look at the mind of the collective. Why is this slogan so effective? Why does it make millions of people cheer and weep and fight? It is because MAGA is not a policy. It is grief. It is the mourning of lost privilege. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing taught us to understand the fear of genetic annihilation. She taught us to understand that racism is a survival strategy for a group of people who see themselves shrinking in a world of color. When they look at the demographics, they see a world that is becoming browner. When they look at the culture, they see Afrobeats, hip-hop, and black style dominating the globe. When they look at the economy, they see the rise of nations that used to be colonies. This terrifies them. The again in the slogan is a safety blanket. It is a wish to go back to a time when whiteness was the default setting of humanity, and everything else was a deviation. They are grieving the loss of unquestioned authority. Do you remember when a teacher could punish a black child unjustly, and no one would believe the child? That is the greatness they miss. Do you remember when the police could operate with 0 cameras, 0 accountability, and 0 fear of protest? That is the greatness they miss. They are not missing a better economy. They are missing a social hierarchy where they were guaranteed to be on top, regardless of their merit, simply by virtue of their skin. It is the psychology of the spoiled child who has been told that he must finally share his toys. To him, fairness feels like a punishment. We must also be honest about the economic game being played here. The brilliance of the system, and I say brilliance in a sinister ways, how it tricks poor white people into fighting against their own class interests by appealing to their racial ego. This is what W.E.B. Du Bois called the psychological wage. The system may starve them. The system may take their unions. The system may ship their jobs overseas. But the system tells them, at least you are not black. At least you are part of the great class. Make America great again is a promise that the psychological wage will be reinstated. But here is the hidden truth. The same forces funding this movement are the same forces extracting wealth from the very people wearing the hats. They sell nostalgia to the masses while they sell the country to the corporations. For black people, we must not be confused. We are not just fighting a political party. We are fighting a system of racial capitalism that requires an underclass to function. They need someone to be on the bottom so they can feel they are on the top. The greatness of America has always required a sacrificial lamb. And historically, that lamb has been the black man and the black woman. Let us zoom out. Because if you think this is only about the United States, you are missing the chessboard. This rhetoric, this desire to return to traditional values and national greatness, is rising everywhere. It is in Europe. It is in parts of South America. Why? Because the West is realizing that the colonial project is failing. Africa is waking up. The Caribbean is waking up. Nations are demanding their artifacts back. Nations are demanding fair trade for their resources. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, they are saying no more. Make America great again is the domestic version of maintaining the empire abroad. When they say they want to secure the borders, they are effectively saying they want to hoard the wealth they stole from the global south, while criminalizing the people fleeing the destruction that Western foreign policy caused. You destroy a nation in Latin America or Africa through CIA interference or unfair trade deals. And then, when the people flee to survive, you call them an invasion. This is the gaslighting of the highest order. As Pan-Africanists, we must understand that the liberation of the Black American is tied to the liberation of the African. The knee on the neck in Minneapolis is connected to the boot on the neck in the Congo. It is the same system of extraction and control. I need you to hear me clearly now. This is the dangerous part. This is the part they do not want you to discuss. When a movement defines itself by looking backward, it is preparing to use violence to reverse the future. History shows us that every time black people make a leap forward, there is a violent white backlash. After the Civil War and the promise of Reconstruction, we got the KKK and Jim Crow. That was their way of making America great again after slavery fell. After the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power movement, we got the war on drugs and mass incarceration. That was their way of making America great again after segregation fell. After the first black president, we got this current era of emboldened white nationalism. The pattern is clear. The again is a warning. It is a signal that they intend to strip away rights you thought were permanent. voting rights, affirmative action, reproductive rights, truth in education. They are banning books. Why? Because you cannot make America great again if the history books tell the truth about how that greatness was achieved. To maintain the fantasy, they must delete the reality. They must erase our story to preserve their glory. So, where does this leave us? Do we sit around and beg them to include us in their version of greatness? Do we ask for a seat at a table that was built to exclude us? No. We must reject their definition of greatness entirely. Their greatness is defined by conquest. Their greatness is defined by accumulation of things. Their greatness is defined by I win, you lose. That is a European, individualistic, capitalistic sickness. We come from a different frequency. We come from the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are. We come from the spirit of Matt, truth, justice, balance, and order. True greatness is not about how many people you can control. It is about how many people you can empower. True greatness is not about hoarding resources. It is about how you care for the vulnerable, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. We do not need to make America great again. We need to make ourselves sovereign. We need to build our own definitions of success. We need to build our own institutions, our own schools, our own economies, and our own media. Dr. John Henrik Clarke told us, powerful people cannot afford to educate the people they oppress, because once you are truly educated, you will not ask for power. You will take it. Family, I am not telling you this to make you afraid. I am telling you this to make you prepared. Fear is a reaction. Awareness is a weapon. Here is what we must do. 1. Protect your mind. Do not let them gaslight you into thinking the past was better. Honor the struggle of your ancestors who survived that great past so you could be here today. Teach your children the unvarnished truth. 2. Economic solidarity. We must stop funding our own oppression. We spend trillions of dollars annually. We must direct that energy toward black businesses, black land ownership, and global African trade. If they want to close the doors, we must build our own house. 3. Political strategizing, not worship. Engage with politics. Yes, but do not worship politicians. Use your vote as a shield, not a prayer. But understand that the ultimate freedom will not come from a ballot box in a system designed by slaveholders. It will come from our collective organization. 4. Global unity. Connect with your family across the diaspora. An African American who understands geopolitics and a Nigerian who understands the American struggle are a dangerous combination to the system. They want us divided. We must be united. The conclusion is this: they want to go back. We are moving forward. They are fighting for a memory. We are fighting for a future. Let them have their slogans. Let them wear their hats. Let them mourn the death of their dominance. We have work to do. We are not interested in a great America that requires our silence. We are interested in a liberated world that respects our humanity. Stay woke, stay dangerous, and above all, stay black. I love you.